Absolutely do not let her open doors. Chivalry's not dead. Women do not want to be men as much as they lead on. They want men to be men. You'll need these things later when you're having to fix a frame with her, handle guy friend situations, and things like this. She needs to know that you're going to treat her correctly like a woman. So one thing I love to tell girls, when they try to approach a door, I tell them directly, do not open a door around me. In fact, if you beat me to the door, wait, I'll be right there, but you're not opening a door. Number 2.
All right, let me stop right there real quick. Okay, so is that an intentional thing? Like, is that, because a lot of people would say that that's very overt. And now I also want to throw this one out there because you just mentioned this a second ago. Do you think that there's going to be a difference between the reaction when you do that between a girl who's like, say, I don't know, 21 versus a girl who's 31?
No, I don't. No, I think that one works all the way around.
Mm-hmm.
I do, because it's kind of a brain fuck,
mm-hmm.
and it's a free one. So any guy that doesn't have a whole lot of money, this one's free, setting a frame, and basically what I'm getting at is this: it's really, really hard for a woman to fight you on something that makes her feel like a lady. And that is traditionally very, very much a sign of interest and care.
Mm-hmm.
So you're setting this hard, and I set it hard. I say it with force, because what you're really doing is coming in with a hard amount of masculinity,
mm-hmm.
but you really can't do much about it because you're trying to be nice to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good way to start the framework
mm-hmm.
of the masculinity, because it's not like you're saying, no guy friends. You're saying, hey, don't open doors around me. I'm going to open every door for you.
Mm-hmm.
Makes her start to kind of have that whole queen feeling. But
mm-hmm.
what you're really doing is setting this very powerful, I'm in control of this situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I like to start right there, right off the bat.
I like this. This is actually a good one. Contrarian expatriate. Traditional chivalry as game. Yes, actually it is. Now, before we get into, well, what is game, right? Understand that everyone you know has game. This is straight out of my second book, okay? Everyone you know has game. How effective that game is really up to whatever that person's belief set is, okay? So if your game is rooted in sort of this blue pill mentality and the conditioning that, oh, I gotta buy her a drink, I gotta suck up to her, she's the queen, I gotta, if your game is about qualifying to her, you're already at a disadvantage. So one of the things, I've actually got into this with, I think it was Jack Napier or somebody else, was talking about paying for dates. And you're going to talk about that here in just a second. And I honestly agree with you on this. I actually think that guys do need to pay for dates because it establishes frame. None of this egalitarian stuff, because if you start from an egalitarian framework, you're already qualifying to that girl. So what happens is, and I think a lot of guys miss the narrative, or they drop the narrative here, is that it's not about, oh, I got to pay for everything for her. What about, it's like, no, it's not even Steven, dude. This is conventional masculinity versus conventional femininity. You'll find this up. You probably already know this about me, Jay. I don't use the term traditional masculinity or traditional femininity or traditional dating, whatever, because everybody's traditions are different. So my traditions are probably different from yours. You grew up in the South. I grew up in Southern California. Our traditions are going to be different than somebody in Mumbai or like, somebody, in a different culture, in a different nationality, a different whatever. That's why I don't call it traditional. However, there are commonalities for conventional masculinity and commonalities for conventional femininity. That's why I refer to them in those terms anyways. But what you're doing here, and this is what I think. I think a lot of people, when they hear the term chivalry has been bastardized. It's been bastardized by a female narrative. Well, how come people don't know, is chivalry dead? Right? That's always a leading question, because it's meant to lead you into the conversation that is, oh, how come men can't be gentlemen? How come there are no nice guys anymore? Usually when you hear chivalry is dead from a woman, she's between the ages of 29 and 31 years old. Guaranteed every time. Because young women, they don't care. They have no interest in chivalry. They have no interest in where are the nice guys. You will never hear women who are 23 years old say, I can't find any nice guys, Rollo. No, that doesn't come out of their mouths. It does when they're 33, but not when they are 23, because they have different incentives and different priorities at that particular time. But, and I think I made this point with you when we were on Sterling's show, was that the idea of chivalry has been sort of bastardized. I think what a lot of guys and modern men and modern women think is chivalry is really what's called the romantic ideal. It's courtly love. Chivalry never had anything to do whatsoever with women. Like the original concept of it, it was honor amongst men. Women did barely factored into that whatsoever. It wasn't until like the mid 1400s or whatever, 1300s, 1400s, somewhere around there in Western Europe, that we have our conventional traditional idea of what chivalry is. And that was inserted into that chivalric code back in the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, the early Renaissance period, right? And it was, defend milady's honor. And I've called chivalry the old school, or let's say the bastardized version of chivalry, feminism 1.0. Because women didn't have any power back then, but the way that they got power was through men, through the expectations. And remember, hear me out here, it was the expectations of those women on the guys to serve women, to qualify themselves to women. It was actually the first like chivalry, according to courtly love and the romantic ideal, was really the early OnlyFans. It was trying to get guys to simp for those women so that they would go and fight, and they would go and exercise power, not themselves, because they're women, they had no power, but they would exercise power through the men who believed in courtly love and believed in the chivalric code that now included courtly love in it. So we get this, be a gentleman, open the door, put a kerchief on the puddle so milady can walk across the puddle, that kind of stuff. And nobody really, what I think our understanding of chivalry is right now in a kind of post-feminist world is the idea that men should qualify themselves to women, that they are the ones that have to open the doors, that have to pay for the date, that have to whatever. And so while women are expecting an old order chivalry, they are also expecting a new order egalitarianism at the same time. Now, what you're doing right now is denying them the egalitarian side of it. And I think that's the distinction that needs to be made right here, because a lot of people are saying, oh, well, chivalry is game. It's not a game. It's a setting the frame and a masculine frame that she is to enter into. And on top of everything else, from what you're describing to me, now correct me if I'm wrong, but from what you're describing to me right now, you're setting that in no uncertain terms. You're demonstrating frame, not explicating frame, right? So it's like, no, I got that. I'm paying for the date. You're in my world right now, and when you're in the prince's world, this is how things are, and I expect you to enter into this world. Am I right?
That's right.
Okay.
That's absolutely right.
Let me continue with this a little bit more here.
Choose a place that you can afford for dinner, and don't be cheap about it. You're a man. You can buy dinner. That is the role. That's ultimately the role if you're going to become a certain value of man. So don't try to split a bill with a woman. Take her somewhere you can afford and do the math. Estimate. What if she wants to get an appetizer? Let her get an appetizer. In fact, one thing I love to tell a waitress is, get this lady whatever she wants. Take her to a restaurant that you can afford to say that at. And don't be cheap about it. If you need to save for an extra couple of days, if you need to work a side job, whatever you need to do, make her feel like a woman. I can't stress enough how important it is to pay attention to how you make people feel. And that's regardless of whether you have a valid point or you're right or wrong or what logically makes sense. Pay attention to how you make her feel.
That's actually, I want to point that out. That's game 101 right there. That's actually even old school PUA. Leave her with an emotional association with you. So can you explain that a little bit more? Like, what did you mean by all of that? Do you want to go into a little bit more detail about, ordering for her? I like that part.
Yeah. So I believe that you can emotionally grab a woman by the throat. Women, I often find, don't even know what they want. I don't think that they understand what drives them crazy when it comes to a man. And I often think that when they think they're going to leave over one reason, it's absolutely not that when they leave a man. So what I'm trying to do when I go in and I say, get this woman whatever she wants, I want her to know that she's under me and that I'm taking care of the situation with conviction. All leadership, love, women, leading other men, it comes from speaking with conviction and them knowing that you're the one that should be calling the plays. So when you go in there and you say, listen, you're not going to open doors around me, I'm going to open these doors. It's the same thing that drives them crazy when you pull their hair or grab their throat or something of that nature when you have sex. They enjoy that dominance role. And you're saying it with complete conviction, so they don't really try to come in and break that up. And to be quite honest with you, I'd much rather trade off opening doors and being a gentleman for what I really want in the end, which is I'm going to do whatever the hell I want to do. You're not going on, guy. Like, I'll trade those small things to set that frame. That way, when the bigger things come up later, I'm being authentic with who I am. So I come with that same force on a much more important subject. So something as simple as opening a door or an appetizer seem quite small to me. And if I need to worry about an appetizer or opening a door, then maybe I need to look in the mirror myself. So what I'm basically trying to do there is give her a feeling of a person that's in abundance and in control.
Right. Yeah, that's good. I like that. The abundance side of things. In fact, that's a key issue in my 5th book right now. Is I think 90% of the problems that a lot of guys have in accepting red pill realities and then using those or leveraging that awareness to their best advantage is the idea that they can have abundance. Because they still are operating from a point of scarcity. When guys are, if you are qualifying to women, if you are, I believe the terminology is most men's sexual strategy is what's called strategic pluralism theory. They don't have access to a lot of women. So when they get access to one woman, they tend to overinvest in that woman. They tend to put all their eggs, their sort of reproductive sort of intimacy eggs in one basket. That's why I've called the sniper mentality rather than the shotgun mentality, which is a sniper has one target and he waits and waits and waits and waits and waits and waits and does everything he should do. And then that one time he takes that one shot, and he better hope he gets it, right? And that's what a lot of guys, particularly in a blue pill game, tend to think is going to be effective for them. If I just prove to her I'm the best, if I just prove to her that I'm Mr. Perfect, if I just prove to her that, prove my quality to milady kind of thing, and do it often enough and build on familiarity and build on rapport and build on comfort and everything, then suddenly that guy turns into a stuffed animal and he doesn't understand why he's turned himself into a stuffed animal. So when that guy decides he wants to get intimate with that girl, he's not a sexual competitor. He's not arousing. He's a stuffed animal. She sees him as comfort comfort and provisioning and support rather than a guy who is actually in control and wants to, be dominant in the bedroom. And she will never take that guy seriously because he began that exchange, or he began that game, right? That approach by getting ahead of himself. It's usually arousal and then comfort, not comfort and then arousal. Right. And when you think that you're going to get to arousal through comfort, you're always going to be disappointed. So I wanted to this was a really good one. Let's cover this really quick. This is a Digibite says, he says, I disagree. Dinners you pay for women that you've already slept with. I've gotten this before, and I know what I would say, but I'm going to let you field this one. Dates are meant to be quick and simple. Grab a coffee, tea, whatever, 30 minutes and go. What the principle here is, and I've heard this a million times from other guys, is that I only pay for dates for girls I've already slept with. Do you think that's putting the cart before the horse?
I'd say the same thing on a coffee date. You can go to coffee if you want. You can go to dinner if you want. To me, you're really splitting hair. You would be splitting hairs over that. So if you want to take her on a coffee date and do the same thing, or show abundance in a different way, that's completely fine. I do dinner a lot of the time. I'm not really worried about the money. And so I would say that maybe later in life, you might do those other things. Also, I'm dating 9s and 10s, man. Straight up. Like, not to upset anybody, but that, and I like doing it that way. I like setting that frame from the jump. What I will say is is that you're absolutely right. A quick way to not get a woman or to lower your chances of liking that relationship in the correct way is only seeing one woman. You should be seeing multiple women. It takes the pressure off of you.
That's what my next question.
With every woman. So they all think I'm that one guy that opened doors, that one guy that told them to get whatever. We're talking about a $10 appetizer right now. So to me, you know, being in abundance is one of the most important things you can possibly do because it takes all the pressure away. Because if you ruin it with this girl, then who cares? You got 30 more of them.
Right.
So
right. That's abundant. That right there is it in a nutshell. Probably, I don't know if you've read my book as thoroughly, maybe, I don't know, but that's plate theory is what that is. That's the abundance side, I think, of, well, first of all, setting the frame. And then second of all, it's red pill 101, right? A date non-exclusively and never imply exclusivity to any one girl. Now, a lot of guys, because of what I said was strategic pluralism theory, most guys who are like the 80%ers, right? They're the guys who don't have as much access to top quality women like you do, right? You're top 20%, right? Those guys, their game, their strategy is based on focusing on one girl. And I think that that's always going to be a mistake. And a lot of guys can't even get that out of their head. The meme in their head is that one man, one woman, that's how it works.
Well, look, I'm going to tell you right now, man, I'm from South Louisiana. There's more 10s in the Target in Midtown, as Sterling or Myron. There's more 10s in the Sterling in Midtown than there are in the whole state of Louisiana. So I was happy doing it with 7s or 8s in Louisiana because there's no 10s walking around the mall in South Louisiana. There's just not. There's 30 of them walking around down there in Brickell right now in probably one store. So I don't think it matters where she's a 9 or a 10 or not. Women are wired the same. And they can feel whether they're in the presence of a man who's going to make them feel safe, who is going to be dominant and take the leadership role, and who kind of gives them that feeling that this man can get other women, which they are a lot more attracted to than they lead on. In fact, I think it turns women on knowing that you can get other women.
Absolutely. Yes. Because I think on some level of consciousness, and this is true in general, women want to be with a guy that other men want to be and other women want to bang. That's pretty much the basics. That's simple. Women's ego is associated with the quality of guy, with the level of guy that they are able to attract and keep. So it's not just like people will say, oh, it's just because they want attention from their girlfriends. Yeah, that's part of it. But it's also ego affirming for that girl to say, yeah, I'm so hot, I'm so high quality, whatever, that I can get a guy like this. And there's
only one way for her to gauge that.
It becomes a positive feedback loop for that woman at that point. This is really
gauges that is that other women want you, and she knows it.
Yes, it's also, that's also passive dread. It's not in your face, hey bitch, I'm gonna go get other girls. No, it's other girls clearly want to get with you. Other women flirt with you. Her girlfriends say, man, Jay's looking real good today. Right? That kind of, when it's third party dread like that you didn't have to initiate, that is the most valuable pre-selection, social proof that you can have, is third party proof that you did not have to solicit in the first place. When people are saying, hey man, I really wish her girlfriends are saying, man, I wish I had what you had, right? Even if she's just a plate, she's still going to think that, you're the type of guy that she can get. And that kind of ruins it. Unfortunately, that kind of ruins it for a lot of guys who are certainly going to be lesser than her. You want to know how you create an alpha widow? That's exactly how you create an alpha widow.
Yeah, but look, man,
what it is.
Fear equals respect equals love. Fear, respect, love. So that's that dread that she respects you for things like having a dominant frame, being able to get other women, and then love. And a lot of times that love happens while she's chasing you. And she's really, a lot of times the way to get her to chase you is for her to know that you have those options. She's like, I need to do more.
Yeah.
So now you're fighting for position. And I don't care, again, if you're dating 10s or you're dating 6s and 7s, it is the same thing.